My daughter is Saffron Borge. She has Rett syndrome. She's 14. She attends St. Martin's School, and she was diagnosed when she was 4.5. She's the only case in Gibraltar. It's a mutation of the X chromosome. And girls have 2, so it tends to affect more girls. I think there are a couple of boys in the world, but they don't normally survive. And they regress, so they speak. They reach their milestones much later than, say, normal children, capable children. But when she spoke, she walked, she talked, there's always, you know that there's something wrong, something's not quite right.
Daddy, you know what I got this from? From the Wheels on the Brand I got this from. I used to do it when I was little, remember? When I watched it. From the girl at the front.
There wasn't a case of Rett syndrome in Gibraltar, so we didn't know what we were looking for, but we knew something was wrong. So she had lots of tests, and I think what was very upsetting for us is that a neurologist came from the UK, and we were asked to take Saffron in, and we did, and the whole team was there, the physio, the speech therapist, they were all there. She was still talking at the time, and he literally looked at her and said, she'll never be a fully functioning adult, which I found quite shocking to be told that, having been told that she had floppy baby, that she was double jointed, that her hearing, we had hearing tests, she had grommets fitted when she was 3. And then she regressed, so they lose the power of speech. She rocks, she doesn't speak anymore, but she used to. They don't play with toys anymore, she just watches TV. That's the only thing that will entertain her. And she grips her hands together all the time, so she has deformed fingers now from that action. She also wears splints, so she doesn't bite her hands. She mouths a lot. But she's still walking, but some of them lose the ability to walk. When this happened with this neurologist, we were then told that she had gross global developmental delay, which is anything. It doesn't mean anything to anyone. So as a parent, because we could see changes, because she spoke and then she didn't speak, because she played with toys and then she didn't play with toys, we could see her sort of getting worse. And so I didn't know where it was going to end, and I just wanted to know what to expect from the future. So we took her to Great Ormond Street ourselves, and after nearly 2 years, a geneticist did a test and she was diagnosed with Rett syndrome. So then obviously we came back to Gibraltar, gave them this information, and then we were able to better deal with her situation.
Some, like genetic conditions, are just how that particular child's potentially going to be limited in its ability to achieve in the way that we would want our children to achieve. But that's not to say that children with genetic conditions can't improve. There are many different aspects of a child's development that if we're able to get in early, we'll be able to save a lot of time and stress later on. So genetics is another field in medicine which is ever evolving. And in the last 10 years, testing has jumped, leaps and bounds. The implications of a genetic diagnosis to the family, to the potential siblings. Could that answer some observations in the extended family?
The beginning was awful because nobody knew what they were looking for. But once they knew, they looked into it, they looked into the condition. We were sent to a Rett clinic in Cardiff, we were sent to another one in London. So, and I understand there's only one of her, and you have 6-month regular assessments where the whole team gets together. So it's very good. Everyone knows Safi. What I did find hard, I think, was that obviously we were struggling with this. I had a 1-year-old at the time, and her sister was 6. So, you know, you have 2 other children, but you're trying to, she had to change schools, she had to go to St. Martin's, you're accepting all of this, you're getting physio, you are getting help, but you don't know where to go.
You are practically on your own with other parents which they have their own problems. So it's not like now we are starting parents to get together and things are working differently. But 10 years ago, you were on your own. I mean, you had the support of some, but from the system you don't have support.
When she started hitting puberty, she started getting the meltdowns. And when we say meltdowns, basically what we mean is that she will have like a massive sort of tantrum initially, and then they started getting more aggressive. So she'll self-harm, she'll hit herself, pull her hair out, she'll strike at us, she'll grab any object that she can, and obviously they've been increasing in intensity. And after the first lockdown, when we could go out again, that's when she started getting pretty bad meltdowns, and they were happening like 5-6 times a day.
I can't even tell you what triggered them.
Yeah.
We don't even know what triggered them.
We tried logging to see if there was, we recorded it down to see if there were patterns or any sort of behavior that was any triggers. But we couldn't really pinpoint into anything. They were completely random. Sometimes she was just happily in her room, and all of a sudden I don't know, the wires in her head got crossed, and she'd have a meltdown. They started getting worse. Obviously, we've had to take measures. We had to remove furniture from her room. So she can't harm herself with the furniture.
We had to contact the doctor. We started speaking to Dr. Dai through the phone, emails. We started telling her what the problem was. We sought help with the care agency because we were so tired.
So tired
that we couldn't cope.
An effect on us, on our mental health, our mental well-being too. And her brother,
There always has to be a plan, and we don't go out as much as I suppose other people do. I don't have that freedom. Flying on a plane now is just horrendous. So I think to a certain extent we miss out, but so do her siblings. And then if you leave her with someone, it's very hard. It has to be somebody, she's in nappies. It has to be somebody who can change her, who knows her. And I'm sure you understand, as a mother, you don't just, I have a couple of really good friends who have kept her, and we've taken the children away for a weekend down the coast, just for them to have, sounds awful, but maybe a normal dinner out with your parents where your sibling isn't screaming, shouting, chucking things. And I don't suffer anymore. I used to with other people's reactions, but they do.
Parents with children with special needs do a lot more parenting. We've got numerous studies internationally that evidence that. When parents are doing so much more on a daily basis, naturally their own resilience and reserves are being severely tested. And it is totally understandable if they are requiring more help, more support in looking after their child with special needs. And the very obvious go-to places would be the extended family. And or following that, the authorities who might be able to offer any level of support, including respite. And respite should ideally take the form of relief and additional support to the parents in the way they need it.
One of our main concern is the concern of respite. That when our son goes out, he has nowhere to go to. There is no place where he can go and sit down and watch the telly, or sit down and play computer games, or whatever he can do. He likes painting, he likes drawing, he likes cooking. He cannot do that. There is no center for that. Travis, do you like the family center?
Yeah.
Did you used to like going there? Yeah? Did you enjoy it? Yes or no? Ah, you used to like going there, no? So, you know what I mean? It's they need the place. It's consistency is very important for them. Routine is very important for them.
We need a respite centre, somewhere where children can be taken when their parents and their families are being given respite in order to go somewhere. They can't just be wandering around the streets. Because, I mean, who wants their child wandering around the streets? What if it's raining? What if they don't want to walk around the streets? Like, they need to have a place to go to, somewhere that is purpose-built, that has things to occupy them, that has some educational element to it, something that is meaningful, not just, taking the child out of the home and having them walk around the streets.
The whole point of respite was that, to give us sort of a break so we can recharge, reset, and continue to provide care for her. No? That's the whole point of the respite.
Yeah, and I think Gibraltar's lacking from that, but terribly. ¿Verdad, John Paul?
The thing is that because of Alaya's condition, it's not easy. The resources that we have struggled to cope with a person like Alaya. It's not that the staff isn't it's not that they don't try and they're not helpful, but with Alaya's complicated conditions, you need people who are really qualified and really know what they're doing, and can really cater for someone
like
with the complex needs that Alaya has.
Yeah.
It's not so much as the authorities offering a few hours on a particular day in a week. This requires a process of discussion, of understanding what how the parents really need the respite. It could be just for the hour after school, between the parents finishing work and the child finishing school. And it's got to be relevant. It's got to be what is really helpful to the parents. So we need to listen to them. We can't prescribe what they want. We need to listen to them and offer what they want. I think that is the point. We also need to look at the existing overall urgent fostering services. Gibraltar hasn't a formal fostering service. So there are so many areas that we could look into together with the service users, the parents, so that what we offer in the end would be what is relevant and what is fit for purpose.
I think it's definitely not an adequate provision, and respite care is so important because it basically gives the parents a chance to recharge their batteries and have the energy to be able to do the best for their children with disabilities.
One of the examples when after the first lockdown, when Alaya had the meltdown, so she was starting to brew to get a meltdown, I would get her, take her down in the car and take her for a ride, just to have a relax, and it worked. And this is something that we mentioned to the
social worker,
the social workers, to see if the care agencies or the carers could replicate this. Have a car, take her around, and I don't know, for whatever reasons, policy they may have in place, it wasn't possible. So this is an example of something that was lacking that could have helped.
They do work and they do genuinely want to help, but if the resources they have is the minimum, there's no way they can give you that support.
Because there is no respite centre, it means that families are often asked to leave their home in order for the respite to take place in the home. So imagine I've got 3 children. I have 3 children. So if I I'm given respite and I'm asked to leave my home in order for respite to be given in my home. What do I do with my other 2 children? I have to go and stay in a grandparent's house. I have to go book a hotel. I mean, how does that work? It's insane.
There has been inconsistencies in the system, in the care system, and as a parent, it's worrying that you today John is coming for your son and tomorrow pizza is coming for your son, when you know that what your son needs is consistency and routine with the people he knows, like for example mom, dad, his brothers, his friends, the people he knows, the teachers. They don't change the teachers, or they don't change the mother and the father. Why would they change the care every single time they take him out? I mean, it's not right, is it?
In any normal situation, no parent wants to give their child over to someone who they don't know well or who doesn't know their child well. When you're dealing with children with special needs, it becomes even more important that the person who's looking after that child knows that child, because there are all sorts of issues that need to be taken care of. Now, if the carer is changed constantly and doesn't understand your child, doesn't understand that maybe a certain issue is going to set him off, and you as a parent don't want to hand them over because you might need the respite, but you also need your child to be safe, and you need to know that your child is going to be safe. So you can't just hand them over to any old person who turns up to your house to take them for a walk. I mean, that doesn't work.
Children with autism, for example, I think they take a long while to establish relationships. And also from the carer's point of view, they need to be able to get to know the child or young person they are looking after. Because the respite care is not just about it's there, the word care. It's about a relationship again, and that relationship has to be kind of worked on. So ideally, with obviously as few changes as possible.
Hello, my name is Matthew, and I'm 30 years old, and I can do without all the people. But people forgive me.
I'm Matthew's older sister, and people tend to stare at how badly I treat my brother. Do you know any 13-year-old boy who gets in with his 18-year-old sister?
I think so, sis.
Exactly. What we mean about the baby talk is that people don't talk to Matthew as they would to any other 13-year-old.
Having a wheelchair doesn't mean that is like a buggy or a pram. It's my legs.
We've decided to do this sketch to show how stupid you'll look when you come up to talk to Matthew.
As I grew up, I was very aware sometimes, like at school, children would make remarks. The word handicapped was like thrown here and there. I always, stood my ground and nipped it in the bud if there was any form of bullying towards me or my brother. And with society, it was hard because so many people patronized him. And I knew this was my brother who understood everything that was going on around him with an average or above average IQ. And people would come up to him and be like, "Hey, hello, how are you? Having a good day?" And we would laugh in their faces, and my brother would just get all his muscles would go, and he would just laugh and laugh. So sometimes we'd play with it, we'd sort of just play along and then have a giggle. So I think we dealt with it with a lot of humor.
What people don't understand is that siblings are kind of bystanders. They watch it all unfold, and as a parent you try and help them, but really you're kind of so caught up in the child that needs as much of your attention as possible that they're kind of not sidelined, but it's difficult, and they don't have that support from their friends because their friends aren't going through it. So it's a different experience that they're having to everyone else. And currently there's nowhere for them to go to talk to. There's no groups, there's nothing. So SNAG is putting together a group session for these children to come together with other children in the same situation as them, someone who's going to understand how embarrassing it is when their little brother has a meltdown in public, or how annoying it is that, you know, that they can't go to a restaurant without a seeming cause, whatever it is they need to talk about.
The reality was it was very hard. My biggest struggle with him was the physical aspect of him. We lived in a block of flats, and we were on the second floor. So physically, I had to get him up, 4 flights of stairs every day, or hold him to help him to go here or there. So a lot of the difficulties were physical.
¿Tú te vas a sentar? Y Callum se fue por ahí. Callum como si no fuera con él. Where are you going to sit? Beside Daddy? Beside Alaya? Beside Daddy?
I want to sit with the buddy.
Buddy?
Venga, vamos.
Since she was very little to now, okay, everything's a struggle. No, you've got to sort of push for the medical tests. You've got to push for the social workers.
I think the system obviously fails the families. We feel that we have been failed by the system. We have been failed by on the medical side. I feel they're failing obviously on the provision of care for Alaya, as we don't have a proper resource centre with a respite centre to it, because at the moment she's only 16 and there's nowhere to place her for respite. Poses strain on all 4 of us. It affects Callum, it affects him in many ways.
Everything, we can't dedicate the time that we should to Callum.
Yeah, we always we always feel that when we have an outing as a family, there's always that chance that Alaya can get a bit
this may
difficult, and it causes a stress obviously on Callum.
And it may simply be a passing phase, but this is when we need the help.
Yeah, and this is not obviously this is not a race. This is going to be a marathon. So if we constantly have to fight for Alaya's care, Alaya's provisions or Alaya's rights, what will happen with Alaya once we're not here to support her with that? Once we're not here to be her voice. That's why our cause is to make sure that everything is on place for when that time comes.
I've been here since 2008. Other charities, other members have been longer. But what we've come to realize is that charity doesn't, government or business charity doesn't really help us. Having our rights help us. And we've given, even when Gibraltar was doing well, before Brexit, before the bill of the COVID-19, things weren't really, those adjustments weren't really introduced. People weren't really spending on us. And basically we come to realize that unless the law is done, nothing will be done in the future.
One of SNAG's main objectives was also the need for there to be a very real, extensive review of disability legislation. And obviously the fact that this disability legislation should be based on the international legislative frameworks that already exist and set the benchmark for most modern day democracies, and that should be the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities.
I'm lucky I can speak, I can hear somewhat, I've learned to lip read, but I don't see, there's parts I don't understand. For example, why do we not have, not rights, because of course we have rights, but when it comes to some places just don't have the facilities, that shouldn't be the case. We should be able to have what we need when we need it, you know what I mean?
They deserve it. I don't see why, they're disabled. Their world is so much harder than ours, and yet they don't seem to have their full rights. I think it's really important.
when I first qualified, I was involved with 2 charities. One was the Gibraltar Society for the Handicapped, which is now the Disability Society. And then I helped form the Gibraltar Awareness and Information Group. And with that charity, what we did was we awarded disability-friendly certificates to restaurants and to shops. So we would visit, we would carry out an access audit and say, okay, you need a ramp, and you need extra space here, you need to provide this. And if they did, then we would give them a disability-friendly certificate that they could have up on their wall or something like that. But at the end of the day, because it wasn't legislation, we were relying on people's goodwill.
Everything will be based on the guidance of that convention. Everything works around that. You know, education policy, GHA policy, protocols in the triage in the health center, or how a policeman will deal with you, or
in your previous programs, your viewers must have seen parents of special needs children, all the issues they're having with time of the OTs and so on, because of the numbers, and there are only a couple of OTs, and they need to rotate, and nobody would accept that in the rest of society. They say, look, we only have 3 teachers in this school, so we're only going to teach your child for 6 weeks of the year because we've got to rotate. How on earth would all the parents in Gibraltar react? Come on! And these people need people who have special skills to be able to help these individuals to be able to fulfill their maximum potential. Because what we all do now, we have an enormous effect on what happens in 10, 15, 30, 50, for the rest of their lives, of these particular individuals who are very, very young. And if we neglect them today, it's going to have a snowball effect for the future. It's happened to me. I mean, I've got sclerosis, bad sclerosis. And that's because I fell through the net of the GHA so many years ago, many moons ago. All right? And I fell through that net. I never had physio, OT, support. Never happened. Another era. Fair enough. I'm not complaining about that now. I'm just pointing out as a fact. But this could happen to the children today. It's not good enough what's happening. However brilliant, lovely school St. Martin's there is, that's not the be-all and end-all. That's not going to solve all the problems. It's great, fantastic. Fantastic we have a new school. But is that going to solve the problem? Absolutely not. There's so many other things that need to happen. So many things. And people need to listen. And it's up to all of us. It's not just the 15%. It's not just parents of disabled children. It's not just disabled people. It's society needs to pressure everyone, every individual, every existing government, any upcoming government, any members of the opposition, everybody. We all have to unite and force the powers that be to change and to enact these laws and to change for the good of all of us. And that includes all of you, because it doesn't work any other way.